viewers. Welcome to another Empowered episode. Empowered series brings you stories, experiences, and guests that help you become empowered. It gives you information that you can use if you are facing any of these challenges. So today we are discussing a very important topic. It's called masturbation, relationship, and fetish. And for this, I have invited a very renowned guest today. She is Dr. Angela Tan from Singapore. She's Masters in Medicine. Hi, she's Masters in Medicine, and she's an ICF coach, and she's also an intimacy coach. So today, we are going to ask her about what is masturbation, what are the impacts of masturbation on relationship, and is it good, is it bad, is it healthy? So let's dive in deep. But before we dive in, let me quickly introduce myself. I am Ritika Vasudev, and I am a relationship coach who help people get unstuck in their painful and challenging relationship. So let's begin. Hello, Dr. Angela.
Hi, nice to see all of you guys here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Angela, for being here. And I'm very excited about this episode today because I received a lot of questions when I announced that I'm doing an interview with you and I'll be talking about masturbation, intimacy. So I have been receiving a lot of questions. So before we start, I just want to give a context about what is masturbation, and for those who don't understand, I'll quickly share what is masturbation. So masturbation is the stimulation of sexual organs with the use of own hand. So this is the act up to the extent of bringing orgasm by yourself. So is this right, Dr. Angela?
Well, it's more or less right, but I think nowadays, with more and more technology involved, some people also use masturbation with toys, inclusive as well. And if you speak to energetic practitioners when they're doing tantric sex or something like that, they would say they don't need to touch themselves in order to reach orgasm. So it kind of varies a little bit here and there.
Oh, okay. All right. So it can be, okay, so what is the age when people start experiencing or experimenting with masturbation?
Well, honestly, young children as young as 3 to 4 years old, they might be starting to explore their genitals. But to them, it was purely exploration. Like, this is a part of me that I never realized. What is it? Their aim was never to have an orgasm per se, until, most of us who are around puberty, where we start to learn more about how sexual experiences exist in our bodies. That's when most of us actually starts formally masturbating, and some of us a bit later, some of us a bit earlier, but puberty plus minus kind of age.
Okay, so that's the time when most of the people or most of the children entering puberty start experiencing. Is that right?
Yeah, but of course, with society differences, cultural differences, this may change, and some of us may have never ever masturbated in our entire life, and that's normal too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. On this note, I want to ask you, like you said, it's normal if someone has never done it in their entire life. But
right.
I received a lot of questions that is it normal, or is it healthy, or how many times does one masturbate?
Okay, it really ranges. And then with different phases in our life, this number changes too. So for teenage boys, some of them may be doing 3-4 times a day. And then let's say when you're in your 60s, you might not even do once a month. So it really changes as time goes by and your needs. And of course, the important thing is, if masturbation is affecting your day-to-day life, such that you have no time to eat, you have no time to sleep, you can't go to work, you can't focus on your studies, and that's where we call it problematic.
Oh, okay. So it tends to have a psychological, physiological, and emotional impact also on one's personality?
You mean when it becomes an addiction?
Yeah, or when they start masturbating, and you as you rightly said that there might be some cultural belief attached to it. So does it make people feel a kind of secret shame that why they're doing it? So it
well, I guess
tends
it
to
does.
impact them emotionally.
I would believe so. I mean, for in Asian cultures, most of us comes from more conservative backgrounds and families, and anything that is sexual is always deemed as a no-no, a shameful thing. It's only happening behind closed doors. So, a lot of youngsters who just started the practice may not realize that what exactly it is, and they may just be doing it under the covers. So they may feel guilty, shameful, or embarrassed about the act. So it might stress them out, and the fear of getting caught might always be lingering there.
Okay, all right. Yes, yes, it is. I completely agree to what you're saying, that it also attaches fear, because in some cultures it is not acceptable, and I don't think it is acceptable in other cultures also, but people don't talk about it, or if it is acceptable, but still it is not openly talked about it. It is such a taboo subject. Why is it so? If it is relating to someone's own body, and they want to use their own body, their own for their own gratification, why it is such a taboo?
I have no idea exactly where is the taboo, but it's just everywhere flying the sky, right? Okay, so I guess it really has to go down to your own family values and the background that you grew up in. Okay, because it really differs from region to region. Even in Singapore, because we are a multicultural society, different groups of my friends view masturbation very differently. So I'm not quite sure, in your hometown, what is it like? Does it also then differ from region to region when there are slightly different practices? So, in general, anything that is sexual is deemed to only happen among married couples. And if you're not married and you're thinking about something sexual, it means that you're a pervert, lacking of a better word, right? And if you're a woman, it gets worse. People think that you're like almost promiscuous if you masturbate, even though it's not really related. You're not having any partners, it's just yourself. But because you practice masturbation, you become deemed as someone who is promiscuous.
Yes, that's a beautiful point you brought up, Dr. Angela, about this, that people think that you might be being a promiscuous if you're doing it. So on this note, I want to ask, is it common among women also to masturbate, or it's only the men who have higher numbers in masturbation?
Well, based on the statistics that has been done worldwide, majority it still goes to men. So the frequency of men masturbation is, say, about 80 to 90%. Okay, and for females, it ranges from 30 to 60%, depending on which country you are actually doing the survey on. So we still see a significant number of men doing so, but we also realize that more and more women are catching up in the game as well. I guess as the world opens up and equality between men and women starts coming in, more women are starting to admit that they actually also masturbate.
All right. Okay. So, and especially with so much information available around, the accessibility, the ease of accessibility to the, I think pornographic material also is aiding in this act, I think. And so do you think that pornographic material is also adding to it?
Well, I believe having access to pornography kind of spurs on the whole idea or the culture of how can we go for our sexual desire. But to me, it's actually not the best way to get sexually educated. Because pornography, after all, was created for entertainment purposes. It wasn't created for education. Hence, in fact, a number of clients I've seen in my clinic sessions, I have to teach them to unlearn the things that they learn for pornography, because those don't actually work in the bedroom at all.
Yes. I think you made a very beautiful point here that pornographic material was only created for pure entertainment, not for education. And this is exactly the point, that even we have so much information floating around us, still people are lost. Still people are confused, and they don't have the right kind of mindset towards it, the acceptance towards it, or the non-acceptance towards it, whatever the case might be from where they are coming. So despite the information, but the source, like which source is a reliable source, I think that makes a lot of difference. So what do you think that we should be teaching our kids when they are entering puberty about masturbation, rather than, or sexual desires, rather than they going on these unreliable resources and gaining their understanding from there?
Okay, I'm not sure how open the parents are over at your side. On my side, I think our parents are still struggling, because every time people ask me about how do you talk to your children about it, I say you're gonna start to talk to your children about it since they're a baby. And people give me very, very, very bewildered looks, like, why baby? They are not anywhere near sex. But to me, it works like that. Okay, if since your child is a baby and you have been shameful about naming his or her genitals, I'm not sure, over here we have like 20, 30 names we have for the genitals. Is it the same for you over there?
Yeah. Each family has, when they are potty training their kids, so they kind of name genitals, so the kid can say something that he needs to go, or something. So when you're talking in public space, so you have a name for it to tell what exactly you want, or what kind, So yes, we do have a couple of names there.
Yes, so exactly, the nicknames. So some, but if you call the vulva, it's a vulva. But if you give a vulva a nickname, whether it's PP, VV, whatever, you're telling your kid that your vulva is shameful. It should not be named at all. You're telling your son that your penis is horrible. You shouldn't talk about it at all in the public. With that in mind, what we are also teaching them that, anything putting your genitals is shameful. Don't talk about it. Don't tell anyone about it. Just keep to yourself.
Yeah.
Okay? So if we can start changing sex education that way, and to see that every body part deserves their respect. And this is where we start, teaching our kids to respect our own bodies, and that other people should also respect our bodies. Because a lot of time in sex education, what we do realize is that boundaries and consent are always blurred, and it makes the sexual encounter scary, frightening, and even guilt-related. And that is where the problem starts coming in. I mean, it's something like, if I'm telling you that McDonald's is really, really bad for you, and you shouldn't eat anything from McDonald's at all, what will your instinctual response be?
Yeah, I'll have a negative belief about it. So every time I see McDonald's, I'll shut myself from that. For having any emotion or any trigger towards that, or any connection with it. I'll try to disconnect myself because I am told that it's not good. So I don't want to be associated with something that is not good, because I have an image and I want to be seen as a good woman, or I want to be seen as a respectable woman, and I don't want people to know that I also have sexual desires, or I might be having those kind of a thoughts. So privately, I might go and look at it, like what is McDonald's offering, but in public, I would be like, no McDonald's for me.
Yeah, and then let's say, peer pressure, your friends comes in, everybody is sitting in a McDonald's restaurant, and and you have no choice. In order to be fit in, you decide to take a fry, for example, or eat a burger, for example. The amount of guilt that then comes in kind of like drowns away the pleasure of enjoying the food for what it is.
Yeah, that's right. That's beautiful.
But that's what kind of happens in the psychology.
That's a wonderful example to explain about the pornographic material and the beliefs that you're forming right from the childhood. Because right from the beginning, your parents are saying, no, don't talk about it. Or even if they catch their little children, especially the boys, playing with themselves, right? I mean, I have seen this while raising kids and in the family also and around also, when boys are like when boys are drinking milk from their bottles. So the other hand is free and they are just playing with themselves. So as a parent, at times you laugh and then you go and tell them, no, no, don't do this. So even if the child is not understanding that what is wrong in my touching my body at a certain part, they say me no, but when I touch any other part, they don't say no. So maybe this is something shameful or something bad that I'm doing, which I'm not supposed to do. So do you think when we are telling them from the beginning that no, this is not good, this is something to be shameful about, this develops into some kind of emotional repression in kids, or which might carry into their adulthood also?
Yeah, on the contrary, there are some of us who are more rebellious in nature. When some of us tell us no, the immediate response is, why no? I'll just do it to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And hence then they go into the overdrive. So different of us, we're all unique. We respond differently to different stimuli or triggers that way. So by knowing our own character and how we respond to these things, how the no which our parents has given us then give rise to different outcomes down the road.
That's interesting. So when does this become an addiction? Or what is the reason that masturbation becomes an addiction for people?
Okay. All right. So as if you go down to basic principles about addiction, and addiction simply happens because we are so in tune, or not in tune, we are so engrossed in that something that this activity gives us. So if you're addicted to the TV, what is it that the TV is giving us that something else is not giving us? All right. If you're addicted to playing games, what is it that the game is giving us that we aren't getting from other sources? Okay, so it's never about what we're addicted to, it's why we're addicted to. So for people who are then addicted to pornography or masturbation or anything sexual that way, what are they seeking for as a form of gratification that's not happening in their lives? So that's the key thing to actually find out in order to solve the whole issue of addiction per se.
Okay. So sometimes, Dr. Angela, people are very confused. They're not like when I also receive questions for clients and I ask them that what is it that you're looking for? What is it that you're missing? Or what makes them get into this compulsive behavior? They just fail to answer. Until unless we go deep diving into that, but on the superficial level, a lot of people fail to answer that why do they even masturbate, and especially get into the compulsive masturbation.
Yes, it's a difficult question to answer because some things become habitual. We don't realize that we're actually doing it. It becomes a habit. It becomes so ingrained in our system. So in cases like that, that's why we usually work with therapists, where the therapist can go into more in-depth either therapy itself or a simple conversation to uncover what's really the driving force behind that. So for example, I have one client who was addicted to masturbation. Okay, so what he was seeking for in masturbation was a stress relief. And then as he worked down towards the line, why is he constantly needs to be, find stress relievers? It's simply because he was constantly being stressed out. And why was he so stressed out? Because he always believed that he needs to be the best. And when he's not the best, he needs to push himself harder.
Yeah.
All right. And where did all this come from? It came from the fact that when he was much younger, his parents will only give him approval whenever he tops the class. So constantly, he's always chasing after the number one. And when he is not the number one in his world, he feels stressed out and overwhelmed. And he's constantly loading himself with more work to prove that he can always be number one. So you see that that's a cycle in itself.
Yes. So what I am understanding in this is that it's not really about the addiction, the masturbation, but it is about the self-worth of that kid. So he
Yes, in
was
this situation.
rebelling. He was rebelling it because he felt that this was in his control and he could do this without needing their approval.
Yeah, to a sex extent, maybe.
Yeah. So, yes, because I also had a client with the similar kind of belief. He also had he had a difficult childhood, and
Right.
his parents, as you said, that they were the only ones who was only giving them approval. So he also faced similar kind of um, bringing upbringing, and he got into alcoholism, and he got into masturbation addiction later.
Right.
So on this note, I also want to ask you, when what are these symptoms, how people can identify that they are now into addiction of masturbation? What are the
Yeah.
symptoms?
So addiction typically you have no control over. So you let the activity runs you. You cannot say, okay, I want to do, it's time for me to shower. It's time for me to do my work. It's time for me to exercise. It is not time for me to masturbate. It doesn't happen at your own control, at your own leisure. It becomes being forced upon. Like if you don't do it, you feel so restless, they can't do anything else. And once you do it, you feel a bit better, but soon the compulsion comes in again. So it's a never ending compulsion, and it disrupts your work, your studies, and it disrupts your day to day life, your interactions with other people. Because you are so caught up in your life is just about you and the addicted activity.
So this comes in cycles, or this can be anytime, anywhere, or as many times in a day?
Yeah, as many times as in a day.
Okay. And is this clinically diagnosed?
Well, typically, those who usually seek therapy, they are kind of like way above board, and hence people will seek therapy. But if you notice the early signs that, how come you're always doing it? How come after you've done it, you don't actually feel totally good? You actually feel angry or frustrated because masturbation was taking up a part of your life away that way. Okay. And you find that you can't control it. It seems like you need to do it anytime. Like you're halfway through a meeting, the urge comes on, you seem to need to handle it as well. Okay. So these are the telltale signs that you might want to actually seek help for more formal diagnosis.
Okay. So, but there are times when people don't even realize it, that this has become an addiction for them, and they keep on doing it. And and after doing it, they, instead of feeling pleasure, they feel guilty.
Yeah.
So what advice or what tips you would like to share for people who are into compulsive masturbation and they yet have not identified that they have got into this addiction? But now I think with this episode, when they get to understand that they might be into an addiction, so how they can overcome it, or where they can, what kind of therapy they can take?
Okay. So for a start, it's important to acknowledge that, you might be having an addiction, right? And to really find someone that you can trust. There are counselors available that does addiction. There are therapists available that does addiction. And if things cannot be controlled by talk therapy itself, sometimes there's also cognitive behavior therapists that deal with this as well. And as well as, psychiatrists who then can prescribe medications to tone down the addiction level itself. So they're, depending on which stage you are in the form of addiction, there are actually different techniques that can be employed to ease the thing. But importantly is to know that it can be handled and it's not shameful to seek help.
Yeah, I think that's right. First, they have to acknowledge it, and first they have to accept it themselves, and they should be willing to go to a therapist to seek help. So, on this note, I also want to ask you now, when as a single person, when they're masturbating, is a different kind of an experience or level. But when you're married and you are masturbating, so how it impacts relationship? I mean, does it have an impact, on the intimacy of both the partners, or they can enjoy their regular sexual life and still they can masturbate in privately or maybe together. So what are the beliefs around this when it is a part of your marriage?
Well, it really depends on the couples. Some couples, they mind if their partners masturbate. It means that they're not desirable enough.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And this is a time to talk about it with your partner. Whether your wife or your husband, what do they think? Should they solely belong to you? Or is it okay that, I don't know, as a wife, sometimes, I'm like so caught up with housework, with work, with the kids, and I might not have time to be there every time my husband has a desire.
Mm-hmm.
Then if I were to stop him from masturbating, am I actually taking away his time for his own pleasure? And vice versa, you see? So I think it really boils down to the couple. What are your beliefs? Do you think that if your partner masturbate without you, it means that you're no longer attractive?
Mm-hmm.
Or, should you say that I'm confident of myself, whether he or she masturbates, I am still the one he or she loves. So it boils down to that kind of conversation together.
Okay. Now, if they are not having a conversation about this and one of the partners catches the other partner in the act, so do you think this impacts the relationship? This might ruin their relationship, or it can still be saved if they talk it out?
Well, if they remain silent and give each other the silent treatment, then of course, as if anything, whether it's masturbating in private or breaking that I don't know, vase or something, is equally marriage breaking, yeah? So to me, it's really having that chance to talk about things. If things doesn't fit your ideal, let's talk about it. I'm not sure how people in general out there think, but to me, okay, the day you married somebody is the day you choose to say, yes, I will work things out. It's not like happily ever after. I mean, to me, it doesn't quite exist. Marriage is a continual journey of finding out what's happening with me, what's happening with my partner, what's happening in this relationship. Can we work it out? Yeah, so that's where I come from.
Okay. So I'll share an experience here and would like to have your opinion on this. So one of my clients was caught by his wife when he was masturbating. Right. So the wife felt that she is, as you rightly said, that she felt unworthy, that she is not worthy enough and she is not attractive enough. And for a couple of days, they had this conflict. And finally, they decided to talk over it. But it didn't lead them anywhere. And since then, their sexual life has completely stopped between them. And now, and they don't even want to seek therapy.
Right.
So in this kind of a situation, what is it that can still make things better between them, or what guidance can be given to them to make the relationship still, if not like before, at least where they are still comfortable and they build trust between each other?
Well, I mean, the wife has to start understanding what is she insecure about. All right. And the husband have to acknowledge that the act, as much as his own, did upset the wife. So by accepting whatever has happened as facts, then it's time to move on to re-understand and renegotiate what are the terms in the marriage, what are the terms now, in this particular domain of intimacy. Because one of the things that happens is that, as a wife, if my husband is masturbating, is he thinking of the ex? Or is he thinking of, the neighbor across the road that is so much more sexy, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
It's a form of emotional betrayal to some of the wives.
Yeah.
Okay. But we have to understand that where is it all coming from? And also to understand, is he masturbating? Is it because I am really not spending time with him? Or is it just because there's a mismatch in sexual desire? Which is all right, There are some times that, the wife may be all ready and the man is not, and vice versa is true. So if we don't iron out all these assumptions, this assumption will end up and build up as resentment over time, and that's the end of marriages.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's more of an emotional issue because they think that something has been taken away from them if they find their partner masturbating. So it is like they think that it is like cheating. They feel cheated, that despite having the openness and the access to each other sexually, why they are still masturbating. So they fail to understand the desire. Maybe they are not matching in the desire. Maybe they are not spending enough time together. And this might lead to, this might open up a Pandora box that they need to go back and introspect on, rather than seeing that this is like cheating, getting cheated, or your partner is cheating, or maybe your partner is fantasizing about someone and masturbating.
Yeah, and then just to add to that, for men to masturbate and to have an orgasm is a 5 minutes job. But for sex to happen, it's at least a 30 minutes of hard work. Sometimes we just need a quick fix,
Yes. So in that case, it's a stress reliever.
Yeah, it is. It's nothing to do with your neighbor across the road who's more sexy than you are. But just that, I just need to get it off. 5 minutes.
So masturbation has some benefits also. Like when I said it's a stress reliever, are there other benefits that people indulge into it?
Yeah, I mean, well, masturbation, orgasm and things like that, when it happens, okay, what happens, there are certain hormones that are released to the body, including dopamine, which is your feel-good hormone. So when we eat chocolate, ice cream, sinful food, we go shopping, we spend, the dopamine gets released and we feel good, and therefore we'll go back to the activity. So same thing with sexual activity, they also release dopamine. At the same time, other things like endorphins, they help us relax. Oxytocin is also released during an orgasm, and it also helps to relax the whole body and to feel love. So therefore, if after sex you and your partner spend some time cuddling, the bond actually strengthens with that. All right. So men, one of the key thing to do here is after sex with your wife, please do not rush off right away to the toilet. Spend 5-10 minutes cuddling her, giving her a couple of kisses here and there. She will feel so loved, and then the rest of the week will be wonderful for you.
Wow, that's I think, wonderful intimacy tip also for couples to build up intimacy when they're, especially they're busy, and how they can just take 5-10 minutes to re-energize, rejuvenate themselves, and still keeps the sparks on. So that's wonderful. So would you like to share some more intimacy tips where people can build more trust and they be more vulnerable to be talking about their deepest desires rather than sulking in private?
Well, I do have, I can share the link later. On my website, I created this thing called a yes, no, maybe list. If you Google it, you'll find something similar as well. So it's basically a list of different sexual activities that you and your partner can perform. So yes, no, and maybe. So for example, kissing. Is it a yes, no, or a maybe? So it's probably a yes for most people. So like, okay, can kind of match. Okay, then come to something more extreme. Oh, how about anal sex? Is it a yes, no, maybe? If it's both saying a no, then it's very clear. Okay, we are not going there at all. It is out of bounds. But what if one person says yes and one person says no? Then this is where the conversation can start. Oh, okay. This looks a bit too much for you. May I know why? Oh, you mean you're into anal sex? That's kind of like, intrusive and scary. Are you sure you're ready for it? So it starts all the conversations together. So it might be a fun thing to do as well. And of course, online toy shop, you can also find a lot of different board games and card games that you and your partner can play with. Hopefully when the kids are asleep, that you can really explore something beyond your usual routine. So that this is how you can spice up things in the bedroom. And actually a very, very daily tip is do not do things that makes your wife upset. That's really hard though.
That's wonderful.
Okay. At least, if you know you made her upset that day, don't ask for sex the same day.
Yes, that's true. That's right. Or you need you do something first to calm her down, relax her, and then probably get her into the mood. So maybe a
Yeah, but that's a
lot
bit
of
more
foreplay work required then.
yes.
So
So yeah, so and if your wife ever rejects you, don't get upset about it. Okay, ask again the next day. Okay, because I'm gonna tell you why, all right? Okay, so even though your wife might reject you, but deep down she actually feels happy. Because which woman doesn't want to be desired and have
right.
the power to say yes or no, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, man, it's okay to be a bit thick-skinned. Just ask. And if you don't want, move on with a smile. Don't be angry and don't say things like, why aren't you always giving it to me? What's wrong with you? All right? Just leave with a smile and try again tomorrow.
True. Don't take it personally, but men tend to take it personally. That
Yes.
they have rejected, like that the wife has rejected the husband personally, rather than understanding that she might have had a tough day, or it was a really physical draining day for her with a lot of activities and a lot of running around the house or the office or both. So they have to understand this rather than making any belief in their mind that they are
Yes.
being rejected and then sulking in private. So I think that's a wonderful tip that you have shared with us. So, and also, you mentioned about sex toys. So nowadays, with pornographic material, I think sex toys have gained acceptability in married life. And so, do they really help you increase the pleasure? Or it is just
It
kind
really
of a
depends.
fetish or an exploration?
It really depends on the couple. So some couples are really open. They want to try everything, from simple things like bondage all the way to, more sadistic stuff, to extreme toys. But some couples are more vanilla in nature. They prefer something more personable. So to me, sexual practices is about an exploration. So explore within what is comfortable for you. And some couples will love to venture down. How do you have soulful sex? How do you have energy exchanges?
Yeah.
And those don't require toys per se, but it does require us to explore, do more reading up and more experiments to find out how it works. Okay, so a lot of people think toys are very invasive. Okay, you must stick something somewhere kind of idea. They're usually like huge and dildo looking like, but that's not quite true. Okay, so to me, a simple toy can be, for example, a card game. Okay, to tease out conversation. It can be a pair of blindfolds. Okay, where you can keep your partner in suspense about what you're going to do. It can also be a bottle of massage oil to help your partner relax as you improve her senses to the tactile that way. So to me, the whole category of sex toys is huge, and it's not just those vibrators.
Yeah, that's quite an information. That's wonderful. So I also want to ask you on this that you just mentioned about exchange of energy and soulful sex. So can you explain this further? Like, what is soulful sex? Because a lot of people have an understanding that sex is just an exchange of some fluids and it's just a play of bodies. And even if they're having more sex, they're sleeping around more with multiple partners, still they are not happy and content. So is soulful sex or is the key somewhere lying between this soulful sex and exchange of energy?
Okay, I'm not sure whether it's the key for everyone, but it's definitely an area worth exploring. Okay, when I talk about soulful sex, we are exchanging souls. Well, not literally exchanging souls, but there's a meetup of the souls, where the key here is about being present. How are you being present in this engagement? And it can happen without physical contact. In actual fact, how do you remain present? By just basking in the presence of somebody else and just enjoying having somebody else in the same space as you, same room as you. And if it's more sexual in nature, more sensual in nature, the touches then comes in. How do you can take in every touch as though every touch is a touch of love, which means the giver also has to be giving love. If the giver is like feeling frustrated, angry, and upset about things at work and bringing the energy into the exchange, then it wouldn't work either.
Mm-hmm.
So the main primary, the primer to get into such a sexual activity is that both parties need to be cleansed in a way, not just physically clean, but mentally and emotionally have they cleared away the junk in their spaces and be fully present with each other during the interaction itself.
Absolutely. I'll share something here that in our culture, what they say, that you choose your sexual partner very carefully because you are exchanging energy. It's not just a body thing. It is you are also exchanging energy. And when you're exchanging energy, you are leaving your energy imprint on the other person. So if you are triggered emotionally, right? And if you are carrying feelings of guilt, shame, or any other negative emotion, you leave that imprint, the impression on the other person.
Yes.
So I think that's very important that you choose your partner very carefully if you are not yet married or not in a committed relationship. But if you are, then ensure that your moods are uplifted. That's what.
Let's say, yeah, I mean, in our culture, I guess women are usually more suppressed in these domains, and all of us carry that guilt and that shame when it comes to sexual activity. So it'd be a nice thing that we can do for ourselves is, how do we let the burden that we've been carrying for generations stop at us? Yes. So that our daughters do not have to carry this forward as well, where they can be proud of their bodies and be proud of who they are. And that's when they can actually have the power to choose their partners. Okay, I mean, it works like that, if we are kind of shameful of who we are, we don't feel that we are worthy, we will choose a partner that is substandard so that we can kind of create a match.
Yeah,
so if you want your daughters
agree.
To have, better standards husbands, let's not carry this, shameful energy down the generations.
Yes, I agree to what you're saying. And I love the word that you just mentioned, that emotionally suppressed, that women are emotionally suppressed sexually and they carry a lot of shame. And I think that goes back to the childhood upbringing, because we are taught, don't talk about it. This is something you do behind the doors. You don't talk about it openly. And people, when they get into a marriage or any sexually active relationship, they bring a lot of beliefs with them. And I think this mismatch of beliefs also defines their sexual chemistry between them. Like, like I often hear this from my clients or people around me at times, that, I'm married to my best friend, but still I don't feel the passion.
Right.
So, like, you are married to your best friend and you say that you talk everything under the sun. You talk everything, right? But still you're not feeling passion, but there is like there is love, but there is no passion. So how do you define this thin line between love and passion between couples? Or it is just an excuse for that person to go and have some affair and just clear up his consciousness?
Okay, well, I think, there are some things that takes a while before it gets rubbed off that way. So if there's no like sensual energy that is happening, we have to look at what's happening. Does this guy totally fit into the goody two shoes type? He's not naughty enough, he's not playful enough, or what is it? What about him is not attracting you that way? Or perhaps maybe I'm the one with the problem. Maybe I have problem accepting that I am a sexual person, and hence I do not want to show my sexual self because I think that it's dirty, it's shameful, it's embarrassing. And I don't want to show it to someone that I love the most because I'm afraid that he will reject me because that part of me is shameful. So we don't know where the issue is. So perhaps, we really need to go and look into what's causing this complex to be expressing itself that way.
So, can you have love without passion? Like you're not enjoying a good sexual relationship, but otherwise you're enjoying all the other things, and you're very good friends, but you're not enjoying a sexual compatibility.
Yeah, I guess it happens like that's why some of us has got platonic relationship with someone of the opposite gender. It's totally possible. But then if this person is your husband and you would like to break through it, then we have to find ways. It's not that it's impossible. We just have to find the right passageway to get across. To create a new bridge such that the links are made that way.
All right. And, another question that I received from one of my persons when I announced that I'm going live with you I'm doing an interview with you on this topic. So he sent me a question and he wanted to ask you, so I'm asking you. He's like, my wife is good, hot looking, but I don't feel excitement towards her, right? But with other women, I am very excited. I feel very excited sexually, but my wife is very good. She's a very good caretaker, and she manages kids well, and she does this, does that, and she's good in bed also, but I don't feel that excitement. But with other women, I really feel the excitement and the sexual energy.
Okay, then is to ask, what is it that this other women have that the wife is missing? Or how has he boxed up his wife into, she's so good. She's so good. I'm not worthy of her. I shouldn't touch her. She's too perfect. I shouldn't taint her with sex, for example, with my dirty thoughts. So there's quite a few possibilities, like what's really happening, and a deeper conversations with your client or this person who asked the question would then be relevant to find out what has he imposed or projected on his wife in a way that the sexual thoughts doesn't fall on her, they fall on other women instead.
That's right. I think that again comes down to their sexual beliefs, what I'm understanding, that what is it that he is holding back as a husband, or he is not acceptable, he's not accepting from his wife a certain kind of image. But with other women, he has no strings attached, no image. It's just the pleasure thing he's associated with for a limited time. So maybe there is no emotional attachment, no deeper connect where he will measure his self-worth or himself from that perspective. So that makes a lot of sense. That's wonderful. Okay, so let's talk about now fetish. What is a fetish, and a sexual fetish especially, and how it impacts the relationship?
All right. So a kink and fetish is kind of in a continuum. All right. Some people get turned on by certain things. Like in movies, we always say women with red heels are such a turn on. They becomes a fetish. But it's not quite a fetish yet, unless the man requires the heels to be there always for him to be sexually aroused. You get what I mean? So a fetish is kind of fixed. You need it there for sure 100% of the time. If it's not there, it doesn't work anymore. Whereas a preference, a kink is like, oh, it turns me on, it makes me more aroused. But without it, I'm still fine. Okay. So in actual fact, the number of people with fetish is significantly lesser compared to the number of people with kinks or preferences. Yeah, so that's how I kind of sum it up.
Okay. I read somewhere that fetish usually develop when a child is unaware about his sexuality. So he develops certain kind of fetishes. So is this true? Like they develop it from childhood, or even they might not know that it's a fetish or a sexual fetish, which they might carry into their sexual life later as an adult. So, but there are some kind of impressions that they carry or they imbibe when they are still developing their sexuality?
Yeah, this is kind of one of the hypotheses,
Mm-hmm.
but at this current stage, because not much research has really been done into this particular area, so we do not know conclusively like what exactly causes fetish. But at least we know where is that line that shouldn't be crossed. For example, if a fetish becomes life-threatening, you're going to hurt somebody, hurt yourself, something illegal, then that's a big no-no, right? But if it's practiced safely and with the consent of your partner, that is, well, allowable that way when it's consensual and it's safe. So that's where we kind of like draw the lines in our practice.
So that too could be addictive like masturbation?
Can be, but the same thing, when anything falls into addiction, it kind of upsets your day-to-day life. It prevents you from functioning. It impairs you psychologically for a good few months down the road. Okay, and you kind of find it hard to extract yourself from it. But we don't really have fetish addiction per se. Is most people with fetish, what their greatest challenge is to find a partner who can accept them for who they are. That's their greatest concern and fear. Yeah. So like, for example, some time back, I have a client who enjoys having the basketball around.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So it turns him on. Okay. And for some interesting reason, he managed to find a partner who was also into basketballs.
Oh.
So their love making involves basketballs.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And then when they broke up, and then he got really frightful. What if I can't find someone again like that?
Oh.
So the thing is, we may not be so lucky as to find someone who's into the exact same thing, but at least can we be open about it and let our partners know that, hey, I really need this to turn me on. Is that something that you're comfortable with? You don't have to get aroused by that, but are you comfortable with this object being around?
Okay. Tell me, Dr. Angela, could this also be a reason for a divorce? For example, you're just suggesting that couples can talk about it if they're comfortable or not. And what if one partner is very keen and the other partner is not very keen, or they have a belief, they don't have that belief, they don't think it's something right, or they don't want to explore also, or they just don't want to accept that. So what is the solution if partners have discussed but they're not at the same frequency of acceptability and non-acceptability? So what is the way forward? Will it impact their relationship? Will it ruin, or they will be like, okay, see you in the court then, if not here?
Right. I mean, I don't know. To me, I'm usually very, very honest with my clients. All right. I will ask them, how far can your love bring you? Okay. Are you ready to cross this hurdle together? Or is it time to say goodbye because of this hurdle? What does this love mean to you? You see, what does this relationship or this family that you're constructing, what do you really want? If there's a happy ever after you're looking for, then good. Then let's work it out. What are your concerns, your fears on this end, and what is your concerns on this end? Let's work it all out. Let's touch that onto the table. Let's find a way to go forward together.
Okay. And will this not, and if they say, okay, we want to keep this relationship, but at the same time, the person starts feeling emotionally depressed, that he's not able to express himself fully with his partner, or his partner is not accepting something that he wants to do. So he will keep the relationship, but then he will look for alternative means to fulfill his desire.
Well, I mean, if he is then allowed to masturbate in his own time with his object of preference, then that's great. Then if he doesn't, then we have a big problem.
Yeah.
Right? And which means the negotiation didn't quite happen. It was more of a compromisation.
That's right. Yes. And that's where, when the compromisation, this sets in a relationship, then it's just a relationship that it's just like you're coexisting in the same house, but you don't have any feelings or any passion towards each other. It's just like coexisting, just like a flatmate in that space. So, and I think that's also emotionally devastating, and you start becoming disconnected with yourself also.
And you start questioning whether, because I don't know, for women, I guess, when it comes to marriage and we are failing in our marriage, we feel that we have failed ourselves, and our self-esteem and the self-perceived worth also decreased. And this actually impacts our overall psychological health that way.
True. So I think, so how important it is for couples to go for sex counseling before they get married or before they say I do.
I don't think every couple needs sex counseling, but at least they need to talk about it, their sexual preferences, their desires, and how they envision things to be like. And if pre-marriage counseling does include a component called sexuality compatibility, that would be great. And then I also do realize when I do my pre-marriage counseling, a lot of couples don't talk about finances too. The way they see money, how they choose to spend, what they spend. Because when we are dating, I have my own money, you have yours. We're just happy to have a meal together. But when you start the family unit and the finances starts to cross lines, it is room for arguments too. So money and sex, two big topics you need to talk about before getting married.
True, absolutely wonderful. I think tip also, money and sex, and I think these are the main causes that brings problem in the relationship. So that's wonderful. So any other tip, Dr. Angela, you would like to share with our viewers regarding this wonderful conversation? You would like to wrap it up in the insights or something that they can take away from this episode?
So, to me, in order to have great sex with your partner, what is required is not your skills, but your honesty and your willingness to be vulnerable and your creativity to explore what really works in the bedroom. So, don't be scared of being rejected, or being judged or whatever. Give yourself and your partner the chance to talk about sex instead of just doing sex.
True. That's wonderful, I think. And also 80% of the sex happens in the mind. So all this rejection and all these things are happening in your mind. It's not real. So please, before that impacts your relationship, talk it out between yourself. And
definitely.
Yes. And if you find yourself getting addicted to masturbation, as Dr. Angela gave us some key points at how you can identify that you are now addicted to masturbation and you really are not liking it, but still you are not able to control the urge and you're getting into the act, seek help. There are therapists who can help you. So please seek help and you can overcome your addiction just like any other addiction, just like any other rehab you go to for alcohol or other things. You can also overcome this. But what you need first is acknowledgement that you are, first is identification that yes, you are addicted to masturbation, acknowledging it, and then seeking help, right? And thank you so much, Dr. Angela. This has been a wonderful session with a lot of, I think, interesting information. And this has also brought out a lot of areas that we don't talk about, like the use of sex toys in sexual lives, or talking about your fetish with your partner and how to deal with those. So you have given us some wonderful tips and insights. So thank you so much. And looking forward to having you soon again on the next episode.
Most welcome. Well, get your viewers to throw in more questions. And if there's enough questions for us to get an episode, let's do it, right? Right. Sure. And it's definitely my pleasure to be with you on this particular channel. Thank you so much for having me.
And where can people can reach out to you, Dr. Angela, in case they want to get in touch with you?
On my website. So you'll key it in somewhere, right? And people can drop a mail on my website.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Angela.